Good morning, philosophers. I woke up this morning to my cars being covered in hail damage. But, as Marcus Aurelius would say, if nature did it, it can't be a bad thing, right? It can't harm me, right? Oh yeah, okay, it's just going to be $1,000 in insurance deductibles, but that's not harm. The obstacle is the way. How does this work? All right. Let's get started. And to start with this one. Oh, number 45. Whatever happens to you is for the good of the world. Oh, that would be enough right there. But if you look closely, you'll generally notice something else as well. Whatever happens to a single person is for the good of others. Good in the ordinary sense, as the world defines it. 46. Just as the arena and the other... Sorry. Oh, man. 46. Just as the arena and the other spectacles weary you, you've seen them all before. And the repetition grates on your nerves, so too with life. The same things, the same causes on all sides. How much longer? 47. Keep this constantly in mind, that all sorts of people have died, all professions, all nationalities. Follow the thought all the way down to Philistician, Phobos, and Oregonian. Now extend it to other species. We have to go there too, where all of them have already gone. The eloquent and the wise, Heraclitus, Pythagoras, Socrates, the heroes of old, the soldiers and kings who followed them, Exodus, Hipparchus, Archimedes, the smart, the generous, the hard-working, the cunning, and the selfish, and even Menippus and his cohorts who laughed at the whole brief, fragile business. All underground, for a long time now. And what harm does it to them? Or the others either, the ones whose names we don't even know? The only thing that isn't worthless, to live this life out truthfully and rightly, and be patient with those who don't. 48. When you need encouragement, think of the qualities of the people around you have. Think of the qualities the people around you have. This one's energy, that one's modesty, another's generosity, and so on. Nothing is as encouraging as when virtues are visibly embodied in the people around us. When we're practically showered with them, it's good to keep this in mind. That is an excellent one. And the corollary to that is that it's your responsibility to filter the people around you, not sort them, that's the wrong word. I guess filter is the best word. To get rid of the bad and to bring in the good. And to bring in the good, to attract the good and to keep them around you, you have to also be virtuous yourself. And if you do that, then you'll have people around you with qualities that you can look up to. This one's energy, that one's modesty, another's generosity, and so on. Nothing is as encouraging as when virtues are visibly embodied in the people around us, when we're practically showered with them. It's good to keep this in mind. Definitely. Definitely. And make yourself the type of person that other people will want to bring you close to them so that they can be encouraged by your virtues. 49. It doesn't bother you that you weigh only X or Y pounds and not 300. Why should it bother you that you have only X or Y years to live and not more? You accept the limits placed on your body, except those placed on your time. Hold on. It doesn't bother you that you weigh only X or Y pounds and not 300? It does bother me when I'm overweight. Why should it bother you that you have only X or Y years to live? Because living is an incredible experience that is precious. I don't get this fatalism or fetishization of, not even that. It's just the devaluing of life. I guess it's enabled by an expectation of continuing on after it's over. Like, oh, this is temporary. We're just here for a little bit. We'll move on to the good place afterwards. So, screw this whole life thing. Screw this whole living thing. Let's just move on to what's next. Well, what if nothing is next? Then this life thing is kind of important and precious and all you'll ever have. So treat it as such. It's such a weird dichotomy that I seem to be reading here. On one hand, they say, memento mori, remember death. Remember that you could die at any moment. So live your life today as if it's, the last one you'll have. That seems to be a totally opposite way to look at your day than, why should it bother you that you don't have much time to live? Why should that bother you? You accept the limits placed on your body, accept those placed on your time. Okay, maybe we shouldn't be fearful of death, but we should also value our life while we have it. I don't know. Number 50. Do your best to convince them, but act on your own, if justice requires it. If met with force, then fall back on acceptance and peaceability. Use the setback to practice other virtues. Remember that our efforts are subject to circumstances. You weren't aiming to do the impossible. Aiming to do what then? To try, and you succeeded. What you set out to do is accomplished. 51. Ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. Self-indulgence means tying it to the things that happen to you. Sanity means tying it to your own actions. You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you. Things can't shape our decisions by themselves. That is another... Those two are both good. Ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. Self-indulgence means tying it to things that happen to you. And sanity means tying it to your own actions. Also, you don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you. Things can't shape our decisions by themselves. That one is a corollary to the one that I just did a cover quote on a while back about, things hurting you. You have to allow them to hurt you for them to hurt you. The feels. 53. Practice really hearing what people say. Do your best to get inside their minds. That's another piece of great advice. 54. What injures the hive injures the bee. Yes, but we're not bees. 55. A lot of good stuff in here. I'm going to be taking notes on this later. If the crew talked back to the captain, or patients to their doctor, then whose authority would they accept? How could the passengers be safe or the patient healthy? Take what you want and pay for it. It's always your own authority to choose whose advice or instructions to accept or follow. If you choose to take your own judgment and advice over that of an authority or in contradiction to an authority, well, you're going to take what you want and pay for it. You're going to suffer the consequences of your own actions. But look, even if you follow the instructions of an authority or that of a captain in this case, or a doctor, even if you choose to follow their instructions or their advice, that's still you making that decision. So as long as it's a voluntary interaction, it's still your authority, and you're still going to pay for the consequences of following that authority figure. And your own authority, absent coercion, your own authority is sort of indisplaceable. And hell, a friend of mine would argue that even with coercion in place, even if you were threatened, it's still a decision that you make to act or not act. So you can't abrogate your own authority, even if you wanted to. 56. All those people who came into the world with me and have already left it. 57. Honey tastes bitter to a man with jaundice. People with rabies are terrified of water, and a child's idea of beauty is a ball. Why does that upset you? Do you think falsehood is less powerful than bile or a rabid dog? 28. No one can keep you from living as your nature requires. Nothing can happen to you that is not required by nature. 59. See, this as your nature requires, and nothing can happen to you that is not required by nature. They have a non-deterministic, he's coming from like a non-determinist free will perspective and making arguments that are deterministic. Like, you had no choice in the matter. Whatever happened to you was required by nature. I mean, like, I guess I could have chosen to buy some kind of shield for my cars, for example, to protect them from the hail. But that would have just been a prior judgment. Anyway, I don't want to get on free will right now. Holy crap. Good morning. 59. The people they want to ingratiate themselves with, and the results and the things they do in the process. How quickly it will all be erased by time. How much has been erased already. That is a common theme in this book. All right. Book 7. Number 1. Evil, the same old thing. No matter what happens, keep this in mind. It's the same old thing from one end of the world to the other. It fills the history books, ancient and modern, and the cities, and the houses too. Nothing new at all. Familiar, transient. Number 2. You cannot quench understanding unless you put out the insights that compose it. But you can rekindle those at will, like glowing coals. I can control my thoughts as necessary. Then how can I be troubled? What is outside my mind means nothing to it. Absorb that lesson and your feet stand firm. You can return to life. Look at things as you did before, and life returns. Number 3. Pointless bustling of processions, opera arias, herds of sheep and cattle, military exercises, a bone flung to pet poodles, a little food in the fish tank, the miserable servitude of ants, scampering of frightened mice, puppets jerked on strings. Surrounded as we are by all of this, we need to practice acceptance, without disdain, but remembering that our own worth is measured by what we devote our energy to. Number 4. Focus on what is said when you speak and on what results from each action. Know what the one aims at and what the other means. That is outstanding advice said in only 2 sentences. Focus on what is said when you speak and on what results from each action. Know what the one aims at and what the other means. Think about what you're going to say before you say it, but compare it to your actual goal in the conversation. That's what most people don't do. They just say what's on their mind, driven by what they want or what they feel in the moment, rather than saying, okay, my goal in this conversation is this end result. And and before I open my mouth, what combination of words can I put together to best steer this situation or this interaction towards that goal? Really good. Number 5. Is my intellect up to this? If so, then I'll put it to work like a tool provided by nature. And if it isn't, then I'll turn the job over to someone who can do better, unless I have no choice. Or I do the best I can with it and collaborate with whoever can make use of it to do what the community needs done. Because whatever I do, alone or with others, can aim at one thing only: what squares with those requirements. Number 6. So many who were remembered already forgotten, and those who remembered them long gone. 7. Don't be ashamed to need help. Like a soldier storming a wall, you have a mission to accomplish. And if you've been wounded and you need a comrade to pull you up, so what? Number 8. Forget the future. When and if it comes, you'll have the same resources to draw on, the same logos. Number 9. Everything is interwoven, and the web is holy. None of its parts are unconnected. They are composed harmoniously, and together they compose the world. One world made up of all things, one divinity present in them all, one substance and one law, the logos that all rational beings share, and one truth. If this is indeed the culmination of one process, beings who share the same birth, the same logos. All right. We are well over halfway through that book. The note that I had for today, I have totally forgotten about. Let me pull it up. Let me open it up here. Oh yeah, integrity. Integrity. And the fact that your integrity is important to everyone that you're in any kind of relationship with. That your integrity is woven into, is part of every relationship that you have with anybody. Personal, romantic, friend, business. Your integrity is not separate from whatever. It is woven into, it is part of each of those connections to other people. And so maintaining your integrity is paramount for those relationships. But also important to think about is that your friends and family and business relationship partners, their integrity is just as woven into the relationship and should be held as just as important as your own. So while you should hold your own self to a high standard, while you should strive to have integrity, you should also hold all the people that you allow into a relationship with you to a high level of integrity as well, because their integrity is just as important. So it goes both ways. It's important all around. It's important to hold yourself accountable. It's important for them to hold you accountable. It's important for you to hold them accountable and for them to hold themselves accountable. Everyone needs to act with integrity. And if they don't, it's like we talked about earlier in meditations today. Get those people out of your orbits. Those relationships are somewhere in between not valuable and a risk. That's what I'm going to think about today. Now I got to call my insurance company. Have a good day, guys.